Story time. I left my hometown behind to give my family a better life. Never imagined what they'd get up to while I was gone. 5 years ago, I made the tough call to migrate and leave everything I cared about behind, hoping to one day come back and give them a worry-free future. I never got the chance to go to college, so I could only get handyman jobs and never had a steady paycheck to support my family. Desperate with the situation, I contacted a cousin who assured me he could help me finding a job to chase the American dream.
Hey cousin, are you ready to work hard?
Yeah, 'cause hope it's for the best. The first few months were the hardest. I missed my wife, and it broke my heart not being close to my son, but I knew every effort would be worth it. I worked my butt off as a dishwasher, gardener, janitor, construction worker, carpenter, shoveling snow, waiting tables, and even in marketing. But it was all worth it because I knew that money would be invested in a satisfaction that would last me a lifetime. Paying for my son's education. He wanted to be a lawyer, so I asked his mom to find the best university for his degree. I won't lie, the options they found seemed pretty expensive, especially because almost everything I earned would go to his tuition. But I didn't care, he deserved it all.
Hey Dad, I know you just sent the tuition money, but I need $50,000 more for book and stuff. Hey Dad, can you send me money for a course? Hey Dad, they asked us to pay 3 months up front. Hey Dad, can you lend me money to take my girlfriend to the movies?
It was getting a bit exhausting because even though I never studied, at his age, I had already gotten several part-time jobs and he could definitely find a way to help with some expenses. Hey son, remember your cousin Octavius? Turns out he's about to graduate too, and in his last year, he started working at a firm to gain experience.
Yeah Dad, but when you're still a student, they barely pay.
Yeah, but at least you'd make enough for your bus fare.
Good thing you mentioned it, Dad. I need some extra money because I'm getting a loan for a small car for Mom and me to get around.
It's for errands and stuff. You get that as a lawyer. I can't be riding the bus.
All right, son, you're right. I'll advance you the money I saved for Christmas.
Thanks, Dad. I knew you'd understand.
Anything to avoid you having a hard time on the bus, although it looks pretty fancy. Couldn't you find a cheaper one?
No, Dad. You always say we should save, right? This car uses way less gas.
I even stopped renting the little room where I slept because I practically lived at work. To save more, I started eating only once or twice a day. It was my son's last year, and they were asking for more and more expensive things. Plus, I had to save for his graduation expenses. I'm so tired, honey. I just want to come back.
Stop complaining already. Aren't we worth it?
Of course you are, but I miss you all. I just want Ruben to graduate so I can come back. Why don't you tell him to find a little job in the meantime?
Stop nagging him with that. It's his last semester. He needs to focus on his studies. No time for distractions.
A famous ice cream shop had just opened and they hired me to serve Latin customers because of my Spanish, so I was doing pretty well. I couldn't stop thinking about surprising my family soon. One busy Sunday, my son called me desperately asking for a huge amount of money. I had to ask my new boss for an advance on a couple checks and promised to work super hard to make up for it. Since he was happy with my performance, he gave me the $5,000 my son urgently needed for more school stuff. I was worried about how I'd manage to buy my plane ticket now that I was broke, especially since I wanted to surprise my wife for her birthday. I started talking to my nephew, who had also studied law, and he said he could get Ruben's books at a good price. Excited, I called my son before he bought them where his teachers told him to. Son, your cousin Octavius said he could help you find the books cheaper. Why don't you call him?
No, Dad, I have to buy them where my teacher said. You know how strict my school is.
Yeah, son, I know, but if we can save a bit, don't you think it's better? I suggested he team up with his classmates to share books while his cousin helped him get them cheaper. But he got so mad he didn't talk to me for a week. I was very sad, but at least I had sent the money and hoped he'd use it wisely. My wife didn't talk to me either those days, but I didn't complain because I figured they were very busy. Besides, I was about to give them a big surprise. I had won a bonus at the ice cream shop for selling more than usual thanks to my service. And since I had sorted out my papers, I used that to buy a plane ticket. The trip would only be for a weekend, but I was dying to see and hug them. Too bad their reaction wasn't what I expected. They were much more surprised than I thought.
What are you doing here?
Family. I missed you all so much too.
Aren't you supposed to be working?
They gave me a couple of days off to visit, honey.
We can't afford to waste money on trips.
I know, but I wanted to spend your birthday with you. Where's Ruben? My wife got nervous, and I immediately knew she was hiding something and I was the only one who didn't know what it was. It was Saturday, so he didn't have classes, so I started looking for him like crazy around the house.
He went out but didn't say where.
When I couldn't find him, I asked my wife for the address of his school to see if we could find him there. I thought maybe he was so studious that even on weekends he stayed to study or finish projects. But when we got there, it was just the ruins of an obviously abandoned university. What is this, Christina? Is this the expensive school I've been paying for?
Darling, don't get mad. Everything has an explanation.
What explanation? You've been making a fool out of me. On the way home, I couldn't believe what my wife was telling me. I just couldn't understand how they'd been deceiving me for 5 years, wasting the money I'd worked so hard for to give them a future. I went without eating so you guys wouldn't lack anything. Where the hell is all that money? What did Ruben do with the last bit he asked for?
I told you to calm down. It has an explanation. Our son has been investing what you send in a small family business. 3 years ago, we realized that with the money you sent, we were getting used to a lifestyle we wouldn't be able to enjoy once you came back home. You know, Ruben has never been good at school. His thing is business. So we made up the university thing to rent a warehouse. We remodeled it, and our son turned it into one of the most prestigious pool halls in the neighborhood. But it's a tough business to keep up, and we haven't been able to recover the investment.
Fed up with the disappointment and anger I felt at that moment, I demanded my wife take me to the disgraceful business my son had set up with my money. When I got there, I felt even more betrayed. It was a rundown bar reeking of rats.
Dad, what are you doing here?
What did you do with the last money you asked for? Or should I say, stole from me?
Dad, I can explain. It's just that at school,
I know everything, Ruben. Don't start making up stuff about the phantom school you never attended. What the hell did you do with the money, you moron?
I invested it, Dad. The business is about to grow. It's just that I got fined for selling alcohol to minors, but it's only a matter of time before we start making money.
Just hearing them and seeing the so-called pool hall full of drunks made my stomach turn, and to think I left believing they'd make good use of the money. Couldn't help strangling them to death. That's what I would have done if I hadn't taken a plane right away. I just couldn't look at them, much less keep supporting them. They had to learn. Anyway, my son was already 23, so he was old enough to make a living on his own. I thought I'd never recover from such a low blow, but my luck started to change as soon as I got back to work, because not only did I get promoted to a better position, I met a lovely girl who values me for who I am and not for what I have. And I never heard from those two traitors again.